celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting. Here's Gerald Salenti with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Salenti. It's Wednesday, February 12th, 2020. And here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front over there in Asia, up. Europe, up. U.S., up, up, up. Gold, beep, down a little bit. Oil, up. Silver, down. Bitcoin, up. What's going on? Well, stocks rose to all-time high on Wednesday, today, as investors shook off concerns over how the coronavirus would impact corporate profits and the global economy. So, I've been saying this, to me, this coronavirus isn't as big as they're making it out. It seems like the markets are agreeing with me to some point over here. And we also heard from Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, and he said that they were closely monitoring the potential global economic fallout from the virus. So what does that tell you? Lower interest rates, markets keep going up. Oil jumps to the most in more than a month as street eyes deeper production cuts and coronavirus cases slow. Oil jumped, it was up over 3% on Wednesday. It's best since January 3rd. January 3rd. What happened on January 3rd? Trump called for the assassination of the Iranian general, Soleimani, and that pushed prices up over there in the Middle East on oil. And what else do we have here? Looks like OPEC's going to cut more, and some of the oil gains were paired after the U.S. Energy Information Administration reported larger than expected inventory buildup. Stockpiles rose 7.5 million barrels, ahead of the 3.2 million barrel build analysts had been expecting. But what about the coronavirus? Coronavirus outbreak weighs on global economy. But when you read this article, the weight ain't that heavy. IFO calculates that each percentage point knockout of the coronavirus from China's growth rate in 2020 to reduce German growth by 0.06%. I mean, that's nothing. So, will it slow growth? Yes, it will, because of what's going on in China and all the airlines, the cruise ships. Things are slowing down. People aren't shopping. There's going to be definitely a down on this. But there are bigger issues about what's bringing the global economy down. They're in your Trends Journal that you got yesterday, the only magazine in the world that tells you what's going on, what it means, and what's next. Alliances strained as virus saps demand for oil. China's the world's largest energy importer and a key customer. A marketer research firm figures that oil demand for the first 3 months of this year will be estimated slashed at about 900,000 barrels a day, or nearly 1% of global consumption. Again, to me, that's temporary. The slowdown is bigger than that. Dollar haven attraction threatens U.S. growth on top of virus outbreak effects. This is from the Financial Times. The currencies of emerging market countries, whose fortunes are most closely linked to the Chinese economy, have shed 2.4% over the same period, according to J.P. Morgan Chase Index, and they're talking about for the last 4 weeks. A surge in the dollar to a 4-month high against other currencies has added another potential barrier to U.S. growth as the Federal Reserve weighs the risks to the economy of the intensifying coronavirus outbreak. Now, what they're saying is if the dollar gets too strong, then it costs more to buy American goods, and that'll hurt our exports. But if the dollar gets a lot stronger, it'll give the Fed a lot more room to lower interest rates. Trade war shifted global commerce. Growth in global trade sank to a meager 1% last year, down from 4% in 2018 and 6% in 2017. It was the fourth worst showing in 40 years. Again, had nothing to do with the trade war. It's a global slowdown. Australia braced for economic double whammy. Whammy number one is the fires that they've had over there that have been terrifying to much of the community, and deadly to all living things. And the other one is the slowdown in China, because Australia does a lot of business with them. So this is, will Australia enter their first recession in about over 20 years? It may happen this year. So, T-Mobile cleared to acquire Sprint. Court gives go-ahead for $59 billion merger. I mention this because the bigs keep getting bigger, pushing everybody else out of business, and all we do is become plantation workers for the multinational corporations that are running the show. So when you put it together and you see that America's wealthiest 1% dominate share ownership, the wealthiest U.S. households are strengthening their grip over corporate America. The richest 1% of Americans now account for more than half the value of equities owned by U.S. households, according to the world's socialist now, Goldman Sachs. It gets worse than that, actually. As of September 2019, the bottom 90% own the grand total of 12%. So the 10% owns it all. Credit card debt in U.S. raises to record $930 billion, and now total household debt is at $14.15 trillion. Delivery, warehousing businesses boost hiring. I mention that because they don't pay a lot of money. Delivery service, working in a warehouse for Amazon and the others. So, wonder why the credit card debt goes up. Wonder why household debt goes up. And then you see the implications. Strikes, lockouts hit highest level since 2011 in the United States. Labor unrest reached its highest level in nearly 2 decades, with 25 labor-related stoppages. But compared to back in the 60s and 70s, the number's still very small. But why is it happening? According to one union president, he goes on to say, after decades of seeing flat wages, benefits taken away, and pensions taken away, workers are ready to stand up and fight. So, where are they standing up to fight? Sinn Féin taps into anger. They just had an election over there in Ireland. The group that won was never expected to win. Why did they win? Well, according to what their problems were, the polls showed that the prime issues were healthcare, housing, homelessness. And housing was by far the dominant issue for voters 35 or less. It's very important because when you read more about this, it's an overthrow of the established parties. And it's a breakthrough. And it's happening around the world, except in the United States and Canada. Here's an opinion piece in the Financial Times about the stunning breakthrough in the election. And Ireland is living its anti-establishment moment. This is no longer a two-party system, said Mary Lou McDonald, the woman who won, the Sinn Féin leader. People want a different type of government. A different type of government. And we in the USSA are stuck with the same rotten, stinking, lousy government. The Democrats and the Republicans. What else do we have here? Population in Egypt hits over 100 million. 100 million people. The population has tripled since the 1960s. I mention this because it's a pretty poor place, and they're having more and more kids. It's not going to work out very well. So now what they're trying to do is come out with a whole new program out there. 2 is enough. But I mention this because in a lot of the poorer nations, they're having more and more children, particularly Africa. I believe the numbers are up as high as 7 per family. So when the Greatest Depression hits, it's going to get really ugly. Disease forecast flawed. This is about goodbye, Rosie, queen of coronavirus. Several factors make it hard to reliably predict viruses' spread and their economic impact. We're tuning in to a lot of people, and one of the doctors that we talk with is Dr. Mitchell Skolnick. And according to his analysis and what he's read from all the data, the hard data coming out from this is a flu. And it hurts the people that are susceptible to them. But it's not shaping up to be the epidemic and the global crisis that the media is building it up to be. And again, to put it into perspective, last year, 61,000 people died from the flu in the United States. We're a little over 1,000 dead in China, in a country of 1.4 billion people, and hardly anybody else is dying. And then if you're catching it, so you catch it and you get out of it, just like you get the flu. So we believe this is overblown. We'll see, and of course we could be wrong. But the markets seem to agree with our forecast. And some other geopolitical news. El Salvador leader's strong-arm loan demand sparks outrage. This guy went into the parliament with troops behind him to tell the people how to vote. Yeah. So that's in Ecuador. Look what's going on in Chile. How about Colombia? Peru? Venezuela. One country after another, the New World Disorder. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And what the big story that we keep saying, that we just kept saying, I should say, about the coronavirus is how a country could close down and tell its population what to do, just like China's doing it, quarantining scores of millions of people, shutting down whatever they want. And the same thing's going to happen when things get out of hand. More and more government crackdown. This is a lesson to watch very carefully, and Dr. Skolnick pointed this out to me, about what's going on in China and how hard, fast, and effectively they cracked down on the population and told them what to do. The same thing's going to happen in all of the countries with big militaries and leaders running the show like America. Over there in India, Modi suffers a setback in a bitter Delhi election. Very important. Read your Trends Journal. We've been following this story for a long time. Again, when people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it, and the people are losing it in the streets in India, and they're showing it now in the polls, and also with the new citizenship law that demotes Muslims to a lower class of people in India and doesn't give them any rights. That issue, plus what Modi government did in Kashmir, robbing them of their semi-autonomous relationship that they had since 1947. What I'm saying is, as this economy weakens, as things get worse, violence is going to increase. Sudan's ousted president to face genocide trial at Hague. That's terrific. And I say you should also bring in George W. Bush for what he did in lying us into the war in Iraq. How come he's not in The Hague? How about Bill Clinton, the murderer? Oh, yeah, you know the story when they asked Madeleine Albright, who was his UN ambassador, when she was on Leslie Stahl's 60 Minutes with Bernie B.S. Sanders voted for the sanctions that killed over 500,000 Iraqi children under the age of 5. And what happened? Well, Madeleine Albright said it was worth the price. How about bringing him up to The Hague? How about Obama, that guy, Gaddafi, he got to go. Oh, by the way, bombs away in Tripoli today. Yep, destroying the place. Thanks, Obama. Oh, Hillary Clinton, Samantha Power, and Susan Rice. How about bringing them? No, only get the guy from Sudan. Important. I just mentioned about what's going on with China and how the big story about this is how they crack down and clamp down on the entire country. China plunges into futuristic crime fighting. China's biggest military technology company has set up a national laboratory to research advanced policing technologies. Yeah, you got it. They're going to watch everything you do, everything you say, every place you go. They're in charge. And it's not only going to be China, it's going to be a country near you, unless, of course, we the people decide we want to run ourselves rather than keep letting the freaks run the show. Don't forget to vote. Don't forget to vote. And what else do we have here? British leader supports $130 billion high-speed railroad plan. Good for them. We got third world rail in the United States over here. We got people to kill and wars to fight. So that's where our money goes. Trump just came out with a new budget. More money to the military and less for the rest. Army sets up base to coordinate with Europe. The United States Army is establishing a new military headquarters to coordinate with European allies in countries potentially threatened from Russia. The head of the Army said yesterday. What are we doing in Lithuania and all these other countries? When they broke up the Soviet Union, the deal was NATO would not expand any further than it was at that time. And Clinton broke that promise. Bush doubled up on it. Obama tripled up on it. And Trump keeps it going. Get this straight. If Russia wanted to invade Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, be over like that, and your 5,000 American troops or whatever you got over there won't be worth anything other than dead. You have no business being there. The war's over. It's a 70-year-old gig, this NATO thing, that Donald Trump, by the way, used to say was a waste. Black Americans' support for Biden falls after Iowa's setback. No kidding. This is the guy. He's a brother to Bloomberg. Biden, under the Clinton administration, 3 strikes, you're out. Hit the minorities really heavy. Biden's going nowhere. Forget about it. So who do we got? It's going to be Bernie or Buttigieg. Yeah, who knows? But anyway, as I see it, it's still Trump 2020. This is important. Teachers fault active shooter drills. The nation's 2 largest teachers' unions want schools to revise or eliminate active shooter drills, asserting that they can harm students' mental health and that there are better ways to prepare for the possibility of a school shooting. As you may or may not know, I am a close combat practitioner. Had my own school, have a black belt in it. You could do all the drills you want about this stuff. A crazy person comes in, your drills don't count. These teachers are 100% correct. This is a waste of time, a waste of money, and all it's doing is putting fear and terror into the minds and hearts of these children. They're as dumb to do this as the morons that had us hiding under desks in case an atom bomb went off. Like that was going to make a difference. But they scared the hell out of you. I remember being frightened as a little kid. And then when we were in high school, they had us standing up against the wall with our hands behind our heads. Like that was going to save your life. These are the same morons in these groups that are putting this together, and I don't blame the teachers, that are putting these kids through this horror show that won't mean anything if hell breaks out in the class. So good for them for stopping it. And now, finally, self-neglect rises among elderly. Rising numbers of older adults are unable to care for themselves, often leading to serious health problems and even death, according to state and local government agencies. Baby boomers, I'm the first generation, first ones out, 1946. Boomers, deaf, blind, and out of their mind. We're getting older. And a lot of us don't have money, don't have families. You're on your own. It's going to be a real big problem in America and a lot of countries. This is where a lot of the effort should be going, but it's also up to the individual. And again, you never could tell what will happen. Poof, lights go out like that. You could be struck with anything. You could be as healthy as you could possibly be, and you never know what you could get hit with. However, having said that, we have over 60% of American adults are obese or overweight, 60 to 70%, I forget the number. We did a big story on it. It was one of our top trends for 2018, ready to explode. The older you get, the more you have to do. The less you do, the quicker you go. So, that's my advice. Not to become among those, the elderly, that when you're down, you're going out. This is Gerald Salenti, and that's some of today's trends in the news.